this topic, which is very strange, of course, and how I ended up in the world of COBOL. COBOL is so old I never learned it. It was written in 1959. I started with BASIC and then Fortran. COBOL was before any of that. And the only reason why I did this, the pandemic started, everybody was locked down, and I saw this news article which said that they wanted to start sending checks out to people who were affected by the pandemic, but they couldn't because they couldn't find enough COBOL programmers. And I said, you got to be kidding. And it reminded me of something I'd heard before. 90% of all financial transactions run by COBOL, 95%, and that is still true. COBOL has always been here because if you have a lot of simple things to do, like you're a bank and you have a whole lot of financial transactions, COBOL is the cheapest per transaction by far. If you have a lot, you run it on a mainframe, you run COBOL, and it can have large amounts of simple things really fast. And you have to write in this incredibly ancient language before any of the modern features. I think Frank's got a COBOL book. Have you? Fundamentals of ANSI, right? Is it COBOL? All right, good. So Frank, maybe you're the man that knows COBOL. So anyway, I never knew it, but I found a good tutorial. And I said, you can, in fact, run it on Linux. And in fact, it's not that hard to learn COBOL, and it's kind of fun. And it is probably job security. A lot of the world is still running on COBOL. And there's an endless chain of people saying, we're going to retire that old stuff and put in new stuff. But there's a vigorous mainframe community strongly defending it and updating the mainframes and continuing to use COBOL. So anyway, then I had students learning this to get a job, and I had to warn them, dude, it's not a realistic language to get a job these days. Learn Python or C++ or something if you want to get in the normal job market. But in case you are a strange enough person to care about COBOL, you can learn it. And so I did this CTF. I did it at a conference, and I got some feedback. Here's the testimonial. Dear God, what the hell is wrong with you people? COBOL. I'm going to have to check it out. And here's the guy explaining, what do you think of COBOL? Fuck COBOL. That's why checks take 3 days to clear the bank. You want to learn a CTF? Oh, yeah, a CTF would be fun. And other people said, this is the first CTF I could probably win because they can't do the normal stuff. Anyway, yeah, I see you, Abbas. Anyway, I'll do the attendance a little later. So anyway, let's play with COBOL. All you need is a Linux machine, and I just checked it. The installation is incredibly simple. You do apt install open COBOL, and then you get COBOL on your Linux machine. Now, this is technically a modern version of COBOL that no longer enforces you to lay things out as you would have to lay them out in a Hollerith card, which is the way it originally was, originally on punch cards, and you had to line things up the right number of spaces in, and that is optional in this stuff. So let's take a look at Hello World. Here's hello.cobol, and here's how it works. The whole point of COBOL, this is what the admiral that invented this, famous person whose name escapes me, she defined this. She said the trick here is we're going to make languages out of normal English. Instead of using weird abbreviations, we're just going to use complete English words for the commands. So you have an identification division and a procedure division. There are divisions in your code. The identification division is used for labels, like the name of your program, and the procedure division contains the procedure to execute. Yeah, Grace Hopper, thank you. Good. And let me get my chat up here. Yes, COBOL is not strange. Oh, well, that's, I like it, but I think it's strange. Anyway, all right. So this is what you use to print, display. Then you display something. At the end of each statement, you have a period. Not a semicolon, but a period, for God's sake. And then when you're done, you stop run, period. So that's what you do. You compile this stuff with COBC, COBOL compiler. And so then you have hello, as you see. You run hello, and it says hello world. So you can see what kind of, all right, and there's a flag defined there once you got COBOL. And now, here's my reference mark. I found a very good online tutorial, which is what I based all this stuff on, that explains this stuff. And here it explains you the 4 divisions: identification, environment, data, and procedure. So you can learn more about them there. And here, then we'll play with variables. So I'm going to do this one, nanovar.cobol. The variables are interesting because, like C variables, they're tied to the hardware, but the hardware is mainframe hardware, and it's a lot different. So here's my identification division, which just has the name of the program, Now I have a data division, which is like where you would declare your variables in C. So I define a working storage section. I've got a name. Now, when you define a variable, you give it a picture of the variable, and A20 means 20 alphabetic characters. 9-5 means 5 numerical characters. That's the format. And so I can define a variable up here. So I give this a variable, A20, give this a value. And then I have the procedure division. And I defined a paragraph with a para. And now I can display the literal string, display the name, display the number. I can move Bartholomew to name. This is going to put that new value in that string variable. And then I'm going to move this number into the number and then display them. So this is how you assign a new value to a variable. And so that one is var.cbl. Let me run that and shrink this so I can see both windows more or less. All right. So I compile that one, and there you go. It started out with barf and 1, 2, 3, bar 5. Now it is Bartholomew and 31337. So you can fill it up at least to the size you have limited to. So here's your data. 9 is numbers, A is alphabetic, X is alphanumeric, letters or numbers, S is for the sign, and P is when you assume decimal numbers. So you can modify this to have a different variable, and you can create a flag here to show that you're using your variables. And now we can do an HTTP GET. Now, by the way, I could not figure out how to make a network connection in COBOL. So I do that outside in a bash shell, and I use COBOL to create the strings that are sent to the server. But it's a simple way to check things out. So I'm going to make get1.cobol. So nano get1.cobol. And put in this stuff. All right. And so it's going to have... here it's going to make this get/COBOL HTTP1 to get line, move host that to host line, and now it displays the get line, the host line, and then a carriage return, which you do this way. So it will make these 2 lines followed by a carriage return. So it's not really much more than hello world, really. And now if you run that, which is, I got to compile it right there, so that's get1. And then run it. So it prints a complete HTTP request to my server. And now to run it, you can send it to the server. And you do that with get1 pipe it to netcat. This is what will... Oh, you might have to install netcat. Let's see. Do I have NC? I do. All right, good. If you don't have it, you might have to install netcat. And then this will take the string that was going to the screen and send it to my server, which is a web server. And it will reply with a status, and this amounts to the same thing as before. And it says hello. It recognizes you come from COBOL and says hello from COBOL. So anyway, that's the beginning here. Now you can control the user agent and find a flag. And then you can play games like loops. So here's a loop that counts from 1 to 3, loop.cobol. So you define a numerical variable with room for 1 digit, and then you make a paragraph, which will then call B paragraph. This will perform B paragraph with a test, and the test is until number greater than 3. So it goes down here, displays the number, and adds 1. Then it comes back here and checks to see if number is greater than 3, and if it's not, then it does it again. Continues until, this is the for loop. Sort of messy looking, but that's a for loop. All right. And so we can compile that thing, which is loop. And then run that thing. And there you go, 0, 1, 2, 3. And so now you can create a program to calculate things like Fibonacci numbers. And if you want to convert a number to a string, it is sort of something that creates a headache. So this is going to be red. This took me a while to get straight. Let me see if I can explain it well. .cobol. All right. So here I have a number. Now I have a B redefines A, pick A5. So this is a pointer to the same data, stored in the same place, but interpreted as a letter. So this is like shortcuts to files on your desktop. I'm not aware of this being used in other languages. So I display the number, I display the string, A and B. Now I add 5 to A, which is a number, and now I print A and B again. And this is kind of screwy. So now I compile that one. I think it's called red. So let me compile red. All right, and then run red. Okay, so if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I add 1 to it, so it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 0, and when I print the string, that has also changed because A and B variables are both pointing to the same storage location. It's just interpreting it differently, which sort of gives me a headache thinking in terms of like C or Python, where nothing like that would happen. All right, and Helen, the Linux virtual machines I created, yeah, let me put the password for all that stuff is samsclass.1337. I'll put it here. There you go. No problem. Okay. And, yep, Admiral Hopper came up with this idea. And so here's another way to make a loop. Take a look at this one. This is going to be loop 2, I guess. All right, now I only need one paragraph. Instead of having one paragraph call another paragraph, I can perform varying number from 1 by 1 until number greater than 4. This is essentially a for statement. And by the way, notice something. If you have a statement which refers to code after it, you don't put a period on it. That would end the paragraph. And that's no good because now this is part of the sentence, and this is also part of the sentence. You have perform and end perform. And everything in there is one sentence, and the period goes here. It took me a while to get my periods straight in COBOL. It's a little confusing until you get used to it, and then it seems pretty logical. So this is the more compact for loop that will start at 1 and count up until it's greater than 4. So I think it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, that's loop 2. So I want to compile loop 2, which is going to be here, loop 2. All right, and then run loop 2. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And so now you can, there's some more challenges to make things here. This took me a while. This is the Rail French cipher. And you can put in text and it will decompose it. Anyway, turns out you can do a lot of things with this with simple string processing. Yes, the indenting is just for readability and not required. I think in the original COBOL, this is called the new open syntax. If you use the old strict syntax, you actually have to have it all lined up exactly right on the cards, and then the indenting is required. But not in this new modern version of COBOL, so to speak. Anyway, so give that stuff a try.